welcome to a discussion about our Session 2 in-text citation worksheet. So as you're working on this, you may find that depending on what program you're using to open a Word document, it alters that format. So if you have Word and it opens fine and it's all working, awesome. I'll show you how to go about doing that. Just inserting the information into that Word document and then saving it and submitting it to the course shell. However, if like me, you have a Mac or you're not using Word, it may prove a little bit more difficult, in which case head to the Student Lounge and look at the FAQ for the Session 2 worksheet and then use the PDF that I supply. We're also going to look at that and the way that you can simply create a document or a note and save each reference as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and just sort of go through the list from top to bottom. So depending on how it goes, choose how you need to do it. And if you have any struggles with that, do not hesitate to send me a message. I mean, ideally, we're all using compatible stuff, but it just doesn't always happen, especially as a Mac user. I know how that goes. So if you need that support, please don't hesitate to reach out and ask for it. So if you have the Word document, you'll notice over here that we have that blank space and then we say reference C. So I'm going to actually scroll over here on the right to the lower part of the other document, the PDF, so that I can show it to you in a split screen. So essentially what we're doing is we're saying, I have a reference, but what does that look like when I put it into in-text citations? If you look at our YouTube video for this course for Session 2, and then there is a separate video just about in-text citations and references, I tend to have sort of my go-to format, sort of my Lego build, if you will. I have those plug-and-play pieces that I use all the time, and the more confident you get, the more you can start to expand that and see other ways to approach it. So knowing that idea, it sort of helps us figure out what we need. Generally, in our reference, we have a lot more information than we do in our in-text citation. In the in-text citation, we should generally have a maximum of 3 elements. So the first thing we're looking at is what is going to help our reader find that information on the reference page. That means we're looking over here at a name, so like Cadmus, Medusa, National Society of Dragon Research. It could be a name, it could be the organization providing it, and failing those, sometimes it's the title of the article. So any of those things, whichever is the first element, that helps our reader say, oh, okay, you want me to go where on the references? Obviously, it feels a little silly at this stage because anyone could look at this handful of references and find it. But remember, when we're looking at these ideas, these are building blocks of sort of small pieces. Think about them in terms of a book and a series of books. When you have an entire 30 to 40 to 50 pages of references, you can't expect your reader to go read all of them. That's why they're in alphabetical order. That's why we have these necessary elements. So we're looking for that first item, which is generally a last name. Then we're looking for the year. You'll notice that sometimes we have just the year and sometimes we have more information. So we may have A or B, we may have no date, we may have the month and the day as well. Whatever we have in our reference, we're only going to take the year. So I'm only going to take 2019, 2003, or 2015B. That's all I'm going to take. Even if I have loads of other information like 2019, January 12th. I'm not going to share January 12th in my in-text citation. Finally, sometimes we have a location. Especially with websites, that's really changing. We don't necessarily have that, and people can do a find function, so we don't really need it. But if we have it, we share it. So we may say something like, if you scroll over here to, let's see, which one? Oh, here, reference F, page 35. It's an actual location, so we're going to put P period space 35. We're going to have 3 elements in that one. We're going to have where it is in that reference list, so a name, reference F, so it would be Slayer, and then we would have 1976, and then we're going to have P period space 35. We're going to have all 3 of those elements. Generally, we don't have the location, especially with websites. If we have it, share it. If we don't, don't. So our first one, let's go try it. It's reference C, which is here, the National Society of Dragon Research. Depending on how you've done this, maybe you have shorthand for it, so like CCU versus Colorado Christian University, that kind of thing can happen. So in this case, we are going to go ahead and share all of that because it's new to us. National Society of Dragon Research. And then we're going to do comma in dot d dots, periods. So ND stands for no date. It means we don't have one. APA 7 is encouraging us to share this. It wants us to say whether or not we have a date or not. In older references, if we didn't have a date, we didn't share that. We just said, well, we don't have it, so why notify anyone of that? But APA 7 says, if you have a date, share it. If you don't have a date, share in.d dot, which stands for no date. So that one's done because we don't have a specific location for it. However, if you were using our PDF and you didn't have that information, so in this case, I created a note just using basic formatting. What I would want you to do is do 1 for our first one, and then I would want you to plug in that information of what you would have in there. And then that gives you room for 2, 3, 4 on down the list. So what I want to do is look at an example that requires us to share something specific. The page 35. So what we would do is we would look for reference F, which again is the Slayer one that we used a moment ago. We're going to share that last name, we're going to share the year, and then we're going to share P.35. And you'll notice that because it's a block quotation, the punctuation goes with the quotation, and we don't have any around that particular piece. So it just says, it just ends with the parenthesis. So the other one I wanted you to glance at is this one because it uses 2 of them. It says we're going to use C and F. So in that case, what we're going to do is separate them with a semicolon. So I would have C, which is the National Society of Dragon Research. And then I would have, oops, I would type it correctly. And then I would have ND for no date. And then I would have a semicolon, and then I would do F, which is Slayer, 1976. And that puts both of them in there. So hopefully that helps you get started on these. I don't want to do all of them because I want you to try and explore and see what you find. But have fun looking at them all and figure out which way works best for you. If you need support with that, please don't hesitate to send a message to me and get some help.